Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin.
I had this dream last night. It was pitch black outside during this. I was driving to get two of my best friends, and we were going somewhere, not sure where though. So I picked them up whilst driving there. There are 2 to 3 guys looking for a ride on the side of the road. I feel obligated to help them out because I wouldn't want to be stranded on the side of the road. The layout of my car was weird, almost like a bus, where the door opened directly to the driver's seat. Anyhow, I let these guys in, and just a couple seconds later, one of their hands grazes the steering wheel. I didn't think much of it at first, but he kept doing it. So I took my hand and lightly pushed it off the wheel and said, "Nah, man." He lightly chuckles, and it seemed like everything went quiet instantly. I turned my head. Then I was staring directly down the barrel of a handgun, with the 3 hitchhikers smiling. I turned back around, completely shocked, but quiet as can be, I opened my phone and began to dial 911. Then pow! Everything goes black. What seemed like 30 seconds later, I wake up to my car flipped over and the 3 hitchhikers dead. I look to see my surroundings and assess what I need to do. My 2 friends are fine. It seems like they got out without a single scratch. All 3 of us are in massive amounts of shock. I reach to the back of my head and feel a bullet hole, with warm, thick blood starting to go down my neck. I close my eyes and feel myself beginning to die. It seemed like my soul was flying up to the sky, but the one little spark of life left in me firmly said, no. My eyes open back up, and I think of everybody I love and need. I physically feel my adrenaline kick in. My arms, my legs, my back all start to work with everything they have. Standing up, I begin to stumble my way towards the hospital, which I should mention, all this happened a block away from my in-real-life house, and the local YMCA and hospital are very close in location. My car crashed in front of the Y. While barely walking, I tell Queasy, one of my friend's nicknames. My other friend was helping me without saying anything. Both of them hold me up under my shoulders and help me walk. I keep yelling, "Queasy, Queasy." It's the only word I can think of at the time. We finally get to the hospital and I go into the ER. I stumble in and yell an incomprehensible slurry of words. The receptionist ignores me, so I look her straight in the eyes and collapse with my head landing on the counter, with blood still gushing out, now going all over the counter. The receptionist dramatically says, "Oh my God." The end. So last night I had a dream where I was in a large cabin in the woods. It was spacious and really cold. I looked at the windows and they were frosted over, so the only thing you could see was white. I got off the couch and went into the kitchen. There wasn't anything I wanted to eat in the fridge, so I went back into the living room. The living room was strange since it had no TV and no other chairs, just a couch, a coffee table, and windows. I laid on the couch and tried to fall asleep again, but then I saw something in the window. It seemed to be a silhouette of a man. It looked kind of like the Arrival movie if you've ever seen it. The man was just standing there, not looking at me, staring blankly into the window. When I got closer to the window, he aimed his head towards me and put his hand up against the glass. His hand was entirely black. I quickly crouched down under the window, and that's when I woke up. I woke up in a cold sweat and my heart was racing. I don't know what this meant or if it means anything. All I know is that it scared the crap out of me. The man in the window looked to be around 6'4", and had very long limbs, kind of like I do. If you might know what this dream means, then please tell me, because I can't stop thinking about it. The dream started out normally. It's in first person and I'm at a cafe alone. I turned to my right to see a very gloomy atmosphere and a bunch of those creepy trees you see in The Conjuring. My dream started to give off this aura from a shady guy at the back. It's like my dream was telling me that this person did something really bad. Out of nowhere, people from outside and inside the cafe started to hang themselves on the creepy trees. People from the cafe started to cry and all of that. Transitions in dreams are really bad, so now I'm in a different scenario. This time I'm restrained. I see this woman restraining other women, and to my right was a little girl who was the daughter of that woman. One by one, the captive woman escaped, but they either got shot by the mom or shot themselves. The last one shot herself in front of me. I wake up in my dream and I find the same mother and daughter lying down on a bed with these weird gadgets on their heads. And they were screaming. I go outside and I see the same setting from when my dream started. The cafe, the creepy trees, and even the people who were in the past two scenarios. Two people walk past me and I hear one of them say, "Hey, that was some really good acting back there." I look up at the trees and see the same hung people, only now they were made of cardboard. I'm at a meeting now with what seems to be the people who orchestrated all of this. Suddenly, one of the employees bursts into the room saying, "Sir, I think you need to see this. There's something happening outside." We all go outside and I see a big tornado coming from a guy in a business suit. My dream told me that this guy was a corrupt mayor, and he was stealing the money from citizens. Then it hit me. Those scenarios were all a punishment for what the three people did. The mother was illegally selling women's eggs. The shady guy at the cafe probably raped someone in the case of the corrupt mayor. The atmosphere got darker and zombies suddenly showed up. I run to the same door I came out of when I woke up, and I find a guard there waiting for me to signal to open it. When it was open, the daughter was there, but she didn't have the gadget on her anymore. She tries to escape, but someone tells me to go after her. I manage to restrain the kid, and I kid you not, I physically felt her bite lightly on my right shoulder. I still felt it when I actually woke up. They managed to take her off me, and they inject some sort of serum into her. She started to calm down. Then my dream told me again, depending on how grave their offense was, it will affect the real world. Hence the tornado, the zombies, and the darker atmosphere. Although I'm not quite sure as to why the mayor's was graver than the shady man. A random woman grabs the girl and I and tells us that there's a safe place where we can stay, which was just across the street. We make it, and along the way we find another kid and bring him along with us. And then I woke up. Scariest part? All of these people were complete strangers. I didn't know any of them at all, nor was there anyone I knew in my dream. So, some background. I have dealt with mental health problems and to this day still have to worry about a relapse. This dream seemed to take advantage of this. It started like the classic 7 Days classic, with a man's voice on my tablet saying, "Bring me the clothes from 10 bodies and call me daddy." I started off a little scared, but my sister reassured me it wasn't real. Until it started to feel very real. Because I'd start to see this toy, a toy that moved, and that no one else seemed to notice. I then gathered some clothes. One shoe had legitimately come from someone I knew had died. The other one and the dress came from a store. When I came to my room, the toy was there talking, and there were these 3 girls all dressed in the same red dress. The toy was angry with me for saying 2 of my clothes were stolen and 1 was legitimate. He asked the girls which one, and one said, "This one," holding the shoe that came from my dead relative. Then one of the girls says, "We're supposed to get the clothes off of dead people." By then he's taken the form of a much larger man. He then points out what one of the other girls mentioned, the price for stealing. And the rule book said I was to be stabbed 7 times. I begged and begged, even allowing my sentence to be increased. They were about to do this when my father walked in. When he did, the girls disappeared, and the man turned back into a toy, with a laugh fading away. I pretty much cried in my father's arms, and later my mom was asking if I wanted to go see a psychiatrist or a linguist. Dream, LOL. I assumed she meant psychologist, so I said both. She then brought me and my sisters to the movie theater. While I was there, I saw the toy. It was always something different, implying he could teleport his form. My mom comforted me. I kept going. I asked if we'd be inside, which they said yes to. Then I saw a hectic father. I didn't realize why he was so hectic until he asked if they would be inside. He had a daughter. I freaked out, saying he had to get inside as soon as possible. My mom tried to calm me down by telling me to breathe. That is when I woke up. But there's nothing scarier than one of those text this to 10 others or you'll die coming to life. Instead, this one meant I either had to kill others or die. And then the idea was introduced that it was all in my head. And the scary thing was that I really hoped it was. The girls who worked for Daddy had complete, utter loyalty to him, implying that they had done it for a long time and never got caught. It was also implied the loyal had powers when they were able to disappear. The only one who wasn't really loyal was the other new recruit. Also in the movie theater scene, I was surrounded by people, yet I had a sure feeling that I wasn't going to die, but my family was. That is one of the scariest feelings I've ever experienced. The feeling that your mother and sisters can be taken away from you, and that the rest of your life you'll be working as a slave. That can't die. When I was younger, I had an active imagination, so this dream I didn't think much of till I had the same dream over and over again. So here goes. It's a long one. I was about 13 to 14 and I fell asleep on my couch watching Pitbulls and Parolees, my favorite show at the time. And in my dream, I thought I woke up because we trained our dog to lick our faces to let her outside to use the bathroom. It was still dark out, so I was kind of scared. When I opened the door, I saw something in the woods. In front of the door, I got a really bad feeling about it, and the door was opened a crack. I tried to quickly close the door, but it got shoved open by an unseen force. And I got stuck between the door. No matter how hard I tried to get out, I couldn't move. I saw about 3 shadows enter my house, and all I could do was hear my whole family screaming while stuck behind the door. 2 sisters, one older, one younger, my stepfather and mother who was pregnant at the time. I kept hearing my stepdad yelling, "Angela, Angela, are you okay? Are you okay, Angela? Angela," my mother's name. And my sister screaming, "Who are you?" and "Get away from me." It felt like hours being stuck behind that door when it all went quiet. Then I saw what I thought was my little sister run out the door. I was finally able to move and I ran after my sister. When I finally caught up to her, she was under a streetlight at the end of the driveway. I was a foot away from her when I called her name. When she turned around, she had white glowing eyes and ran up to me, and I woke up in a sweat. I had this dream 3 other times, and it was every time we moved, and I was stuck behind the door to the house we moved in with different outcomes. Because it was a different house and I got 2 other siblings since then. It still scares me, and I still get them every time we move. And I'm 20 years old now. Woke up feeling as if I was actually awake, but boyfriend and the friend I had sleeping over wasn't in the room. Then my head, body, and vision started to shake, as if I was on a roller coaster, but still lying down. Felt a lot of pressure on my chest. When I went to get up and look for boyfriend, I could barely walk, and the noise was so loud, and I was falling over all over the room. Felt as if someone had a hold of me. Everything was just shaking. Made it into the kitchen where no one was, so I decided to check the bedroom, where I started, to see if maybe he was there, which he was, but sitting up looking straight ahead, non-responsive. I managed to make it onto the bed and try to grab him, but it was like he wasn't there. Just a hologram of sort. That's when I started to see the thing on my bedside flashing in and out from being there to not being there. All black, almost like a glitch. The room is still black and I was still shaking. I thought, okay, this has got to be some demon shit because it all felt 100% real. So I started screaming, "Jesus, and I rebuke you." I'm not religious, but that's what I've heard my boyfriend say before. That's when at the same time that thing grabbed my right foot and started squeezing it. It felt real. This is when I knew I was in trouble. But at the same time, suddenly I can feel my boyfriend, but he was still unresponsive. The squeezing felt so real and started to hurt. The shaking got worse and the amount of noise, white noise, just got louder, and I just kept screaming, "Jesus, plus I rebuke you." That's when the squeezing got to the point where I could move, and nails started going into my feet, but my boyfriend finally snapped into it. Suddenly, I woke up, in real life, gasping for air. What the fuck does this mean? This dream has stuck with me for years because I've only ever remembered 3 dreams that had actually happened when I was sleeping. I always imagine things before bed that I consider to be dreams, but aren't technically dreams. I know I do dream, everyone does, but I, like many, just don't remember them. Keep in mind, back then I was about 5 foot even. Now this was a lot scarier to me as a child, but I hope it spooks you too, so here you go. I had this dream a few years ago. I forget when, but I know it was fairly young, maybe grade 2 or 3. I had finally fallen asleep when I started to imagine myself. That's how this dream starts, just myself lying in bed. Soon the POV in the dream shifted to first person, kind of like when you're playing a game and a flashback starts, or part of the storyline plays. And when it finishes, it glides from the previous camera angle in the air to your character's eyes. Anyways, in the dream, I woke up. When I woke up in the dream, of course, it was early morning, so I got a sense that it was real, that it was happening to my actual person. I sat up and looked out my window. My bedroom is technically on the main floor, but there's this hill in my backyard, or the place we call our backyard, when really it's at the side of our house. Our yard layout is very strange. That makes the stripe of land that should be our backyard dip down, exposing part of our basement. That way, when I look out of my window, it's almost like a second story. Out of my window, I thought I saw a white blur shoot past, but I wasn't sure. I brushed it off as possibly a bird. I was a kid. I didn't know how fast birds really went. I was making my way to my kitchen when I passed by this floor-to-ceiling window we had in a room full of miscellaneous things, like a piano, a shelving unit, bookshelves, etc. I took another peek out the window because I swore I saw my dog, just on her hind legs, staring at me. I thought that was weird because she'd never done that before, and she shouldn't be outside. What if she runs away, I thought. After that, I decided the best option was to get her myself, and not tell my mom, in case that wasn't my dog. For some reason at this time, I was the only one up, even though I'm usually the last awake, so I just figured I had some time before school started. I went past the kitchen door and sleepily waddled my way down to the front steps. I turned to my side yard because that's where she likes to go. I made it to the gate when I looked out in front of me. I stopped in my tracks. My heart started pounding, but my breath slowed to a halt. Standing 10 feet away from me, there was my dog, my 7-year-old golden doodle named Penny, a grand total of 7 to 8 feet tall on her hind legs, her thin face staring down mine. She wasn't standing like a regular dog does when they go in their hind legs. Her legs were straight and arms stuck by her side. She looked oddly human. She started towards me, walking as though she's done this a million times before. She leaned down, her hot breath covering my face. She stared me dead in the eyes. Her glare was piercing. Almost only the whites of her eyes showing, except for these black dots, the size of a pinhead. With her deranged to human face an inch away from mine, she lunged. And that was it. It was a terrible dream I had this morning before work, July 10th, 2019. I dreamt my sister was knocking at my apartment door. She was banging on it and telling me she wanted to come in and do a gym session. I gym in the mornings, but she never joined me before. Right when I was about to yell down to say come in, something said very urgently, "Don't answer it." I was very confused, but had a feeling I should listen to it, so I kept quiet. Suddenly, she started banging louder and louder and screaming for me to open, and eventually, gripped with fear, screamed, "No!" All of a sudden, I got very ill, like I was going to vomit, and my ears started ringing badly. I sat up, and I was awake. Thinking it was just a bad dream, I started getting ready for work. But then I heard my little sister asking me to let her in, so she can come get her things. But she lived with my mom across town. Confused as to how she got here since she's only 15 and can't drive, I looked out the window. I saw that it was just darkness outside. Like my apartment was in some sort of void. I realized I was probably having a very lucid dream, since it felt like I was awake. Suddenly I felt cold as ice. I said no again to whatever was knocking at my door. Once again my ears rang. It was more painful this time. I put my hands over my ears from the pain, but then I woke up. I was shaking and sweaty. I shook it off and got up. But then, when I stood up, my husband came up the steps. This was odd because he usually left for work long before I got up in the morning. So I asked him if he was real and why he wasn't at work. I knew I was probably making a fool of myself, but those dreams bothered me, and something about him felt off, like a bad vibe of some sort. He looked at me and just let out a laugh, came over to where I stood next to the bed and kissed me. He said, "What do you mean, am I real?" Afraid I already acted like a fool, I smiled and thought I was being silly. I then decided to proceed to get ready for the third time this morning, but when I turned around to pick up my phone, I realized I was still laying in bed. I saw my body in the bed still, but I knew I was standing. I got scared as hell because I realized I was still dreaming, and I just let my husband, or what I thought was my husband, into the house. I felt terribly wrong, like my whole body was stiff and I couldn't move from fear. I panicked and started trying to wake myself up. Even prayed the alarm would go off. Eventually, I felt that I was getting myself to wake up. My eyes opened, and I saw I was still on my back in bed, but I couldn't move. My body stiff, and I couldn't get up. Only my eyes could move. I tried desperately to move, but I kept seeing my body stay behind. It was like those astroform things. And then there was this something in the flat that I knew wasn't good. It was crawling in on the roof just out of eyesight, and I legit felt myself panicking. Then my ears rang again, and it was so sore I shot up, and even my cat freaked out. I was shaking, and it wasn't till I got off work that I believed I was fully and actually awake. Whatever I experienced, it was something evil. I hope it never, ever happens again. So last night I dreamt that me and some people I don't know were riding around in a big four-door truck, and this road was slightly dark, and at some point there was a little light on at the side of the road, and a turn, so we make the turn and see this old abandoned church, and the driver turned to everyone and said, "Okay, we're here, let's go look around." And everyone got out and we looked around on the outside, and then we went on the inside. We looked around and there was kind of like a booth like you would see in a restaurant, but we sat at it and everyone was talking, and all at once we see a star with 2 layers of circle, and in between the 2 was some strange text that I couldn't read. And I look at the person in the middle of the booth, and she turned red and had black eyes, and the mouth was so big that it could have bitten a whole leg off. I mean, this thing looked like a demon. I look at everyone else and they started to turn into one of them, so I take off running back to the truck. I go outside and those things were crawling out of the church from the top to the bottom, and I finally get to the truck. There's one sitting in the passenger seat. So I quickly rushed to the side, and I grabbed by the hair and pulled it out, but when I did, it let out the most non-human scream. When I got to the ground, it laid there and cried, so right after that I ran to the driver's side door and got in. And someone in the back who was with us said to me, "Can you drive this thing?" I said, "I don't have a driver's license, but we need to get out of here." So I put the truck in reverse and backed it up, put it in drive, and I put the gas pedal to the floor. And as that was happening, like 100,000 plus of those things were running out into the woods, and we somehow ended up in some water, and there was a revolver that was floating up to the surface, so I swam to grab it. Once I grab it, I get out of the car and I start walking down the road. I see 3 of them, so I shot one and it screamed and fell over. I took off running and I turned back and the other 2 were still chasing me. I shot at another in its stomach and it screamed and fell over. And then I shot the last one and it just fell over. I take a deep breath and then I turn around to one so close to me that it could have breathed down my neck. I screamed and it grabbed me, and then I woke up. I don't know what in the world, what kind of dream that was, but I hope I don't have that again. I've had this dream 3 times, one every couple of years, but they are like a continuation of another. I remember that each one is clear as day. They all start the same way. I'm on a bus with the other kids ages 6 to 16. Some are talking, all of us are calm. This is so clear that I can count how many kids there are. The first 2 times it was 20 to 30. Second was 30 to 40. I even had a small get-to-know-you conversation with a girl. Outside the buses is a forest. Not the creepy part. On our way to our destination, we will go over several bridges. Under these bridges are cages of mutilated children, some alive, some dead. When we get to our destination, we would get out, and there would be a large building there. We never went into it, but I'm pretty sure it was a school. There will also be a man there, very tall and skinny. It is important to tell you that I couldn't see anyone's faces, but it was blurred. He would bring us around back. There was a small forest. Our borders for how far we could go was a very big tree in the far right corner and a long chain link fence on the left. On the other side of the fence was an abandoned factory. Now time for the scary part. The man had us run into the forest and hide, and he will hunt us. He didn't kill us, just have us sent back to the front of the forest. I was always one of the last to be found. Everyone got to go home except for the first 3 to be found. I never knew what happened to them, but this time I found out. The man was saying how he wanted to see who could skin a cat the fastest. At this point, I didn't want to come here anymore, so I made a deal with the man. We would play one-on-one game. If he found me, then he could kill me. If he didn't find me, then he would need to let me go free. The dream ended with me getting ready to run into the forest for the last time. I am telling you all this because I wanted to see if anyone else had this dream. I need to know before the next time I have that dream. After all, there were other kids on that bus. A few crazy dreams that I have had. When I was a little kid, probably like 7, I used to have this reoccurring dream. Basically, it started with me in the middle of a wide open field, and I see a tiny pink shack. I decide to go in, and the inside is huge, like a mansion. I see a giant staircase, so I start running up. When I get to the top, I quickly realize I can't breathe. There's no air, so I run back down and see the bottom is filling up with water. My heart drops, and I know in my mind that no matter what I do, I'm gonna die. I always woke up right after that. I haven't had that dream in a long time, but I'll never forget. I've also had another reoccurring dream about the same age, where I'd wake up and instantly feel like I needed to find my mom. I instinctively go outside. It's always nighttime. I start walking down the street. It's pitch black out except for the streetlights. Suddenly, a figure kind of appears down the street, and I get excited and start shouting at her. I start running towards her, and every time I run right up to her, and she turns around, it's not her, but some crazy person who looked identical. Same hair, same clothes, same everything except up close, face to face, it wasn't her, and I would turn around and run away, screaming, and then I'd wake up. I've had a few dreams that I don't believe were dreams at all. I'll wake up sitting up in my bed, and I'll see people standing around me, like a crowd of people standing around my bed just looking at me. Every time it happened, the sun, or a very bright light, was shining through my curtains. They don't move or say anything. They just stand there and stare down at me. In one of those dreams, I remember looking at one of them. I didn't recognize them, and I asked if they had a lighter. I looked down and realized I already had one in my hand, so I looked back up holding the lighter, and then all of a sudden, I'll start coming out of it, and I'm literally actually sitting up in my bed, holding my hand up in pitch black darkness. I don't know why, but I've had those dreams quite often, and they're different every time, yet still the same. Maybe they're really visitors. I've read deathbed confessions where some people dying have seen a crowd of people standing in their room. I guess I'll never know. Hey, this is my first time on this subreddit. I joined this one to tell people about my dream. It started off when I was a wee lad. I saw on the TV a commercial about a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant they had on an island. I think it said on it, send your kids there by themselves. We will treat them with the best care. In the commercial, we're kids, but the expression on their faces was as if they were forced to do it, like as if they were scared for their life. But of course, I didn't notice that. I begged for my parents to send me there. From there, I don't remember much, but the next thing I knew, I was on the boat heading to the island. When we got there, adults escorting us, because there were multiple, maybe around 10 to 13 kids, they let us inside and out. Everything looked worn down, old, and abandoned. I was starting to get scared because of how scary the mouse costume looked. It looked like it had bloodshot red eyes, and the suit was ripped, and it looked too big, so it looked saggy on whoever was inside. They took us behind the counter into a basement where there was a long list of chairs and tables. The adults, including the guy in the mouse costume, grabbed our small arms and gripped them super tight and then forced us to sit down. The guy in the mouse costume came to each one of us, tied a bib around us, then gave us all, including me, one singular Pop-Tart. We were all so little, around the age 8 of 9. Then the next thing I knew, the kids next to me digging into the Pop-Tart. I followed and did the same. All of the adults were looking down at their feet so we couldn't see their faces, and they were chuckling. When everyone finished, the adults gave us kids 2 Pop-Tarts this time. The mouse finally spoke, and when he did, chills ran down my spine in real life and in my dream. He sounded like a drug addict, or like one of those people that smoke too much. He said, "Eat both of the kids at the same time. If you do it wrong, I'll cut it up for you." The first kid ate them both. The second kid ate them both. When it came to the third kid, he was sweating. He then said to the mouse, "I can't fit both into my mouth. It's too big." As we all waited for the mouse to respond, we got nothing from him. The 8-year-old little boy picked up the Pop-Tart at first, hesitating to eat it. The mouse stood so still and stared into the kid's eyes. The boy put down the Pop-Tart and said, "I can't do it," while shaking his head. There was a long silence between them. I blinked my eyes, and the next thing I knew, I saw the kids flying off his body, and the mouse holding a knife in his hand. All the kids started screaming, and there was blood on the kid's face next to him. It finally came to me. I tried to eat the Pop-Tart so I couldn't get killed. I couldn't eat it. I looked up. I saw those bloodshot eyes staring into my soul. Then my dream ended. Right there. I have this reoccurring nightmare. My sister, my mother, and I are all stuck in this home that is supposed to be our house. It's this huge stone house that is all white with vines running up the sides, and it's on fire. Now, to verify, when I say stuck, I mean literally stuck. We can't seem to open the windows or doors, and we can't exit this house. The dream goes on for what seems like forever, with us trying and failing to exit. The fire getting closer and closer to us with every failure to exit. We start to panic, and our attempts are more and more hurried with our fear of burning alive in this house. That is until we finally are able to get out. Then, as dreams do, it gets weird, and we are chased by a serial killer down the road. Just a fun little bit of weird coincidence, though. As an adult, I had a chilling find. Due to that dream feeling so real and being reoccurring, it has always freaked me out. Well, while driving in a nearby neighborhood close to my home, I drove past a house that made me gasp out loud. I saw the house, the white stone and the vines. It was jarring. I know that realistically I have probably seen that house before, so that is why my brain put it in my dream. It was just extremely weird to see it in real life. I have had many dreams of my house burning down. Dream readers have stated that it is because you feel out of control of your life. I wonder how accurate that was to mine at the time. Alright, if you've made it to the end of the video, I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed that last story, although shorter, much shorter than everything else, it is a true story from The Panic Within, Queen of Panic. Since I was a child, I've had that weird dream. It has stopped for a while now, but it was very much reoccurring. I had that dream many, many times, and it was always really weird. So seeing that house was like, what the actual hell, you know? But it's really cool. I seen it, and I was with my husband, the king, and I was just like, what in the... I gotta explain this to you, because it was jarring, like I said, but I hope you liked the video. If you would like to submit your stories, please check out the Panic Within subreddit. I go over those stories that are submitted, and I go ahead and I narrate them. I say go over, but I narrate all of them. So if you are interested in something like that, go ahead and take a look in the description, and you'll find the link there. We also have a Discord. You can come and hang out and get spooky with me and other narrators. We post new content, up-and-coming videos, promotions, and we also just hang out and chat, and you can come and hang out with us there. If you're interested in that, link is also in the description below. And last but not least, if you are interested in doing a collab with the King of Panic or myself, you can absolutely reach out if you're another creator. You can do one on our channel, we can do one with you. We are completely open for collab as of right now. Looking for new stuff to do and very excited for anybody who reaches out. The best way to do that is through Twitter or Discord. I do check Instagram and I will get back. It just might take a little longer because I'm super bad at that, but I've been trying to be better. So if you do reach out there, even if it takes a couple days, I'll be there. But like I said, we're excited. So please definitely reach out and we're looking forward to it. And as always,
thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.